So today we'll look at pure bending of curved wheels. Consider this curved beam now, which is formed by arcs of a circle. So this is one arc of a circle, which is of radius A, and this is another arc of a circle, which is of radius B, and the width into the board is unity, and we are applying a pure bending moment. So that means, what we mean by pure bending moment means that there is no transverse shear force that is being applied along with this one. So that is what we mean by pure bending load. And we will first write the boundary conditions for this. So again, since the outer and the inner surfaces are traction free, you will get that tau r is equal to 0 at r equal to A and r equal to B. So that is one boundary condition here. Then the resultant force on this particular edge is equal to 0. See, because there is no axial, there is no force that is being applied along this direction here. So we have that tau theta theta dr from A to B is equal to 0, and then the bending moment is generated by this x cross t. Right? We have looked at that. So if you compute now this x cross t ds, so that is equal to this m. So that will turn out to be tau theta theta times r times dr is equal to minus of m. So I mean, one way to consider this is that if you take an element here, so one can do it mathematically also, but physically if you want to look at it, then tau theta theta is what is acting along this particular direction on this element here, and then r times tau theta theta will give you the bending moment on that particular element, and if you integrate that over the entire surface, right? But because the width is unity, so that is why you get only a dr. Otherwise, you would have got the width also into this integral here. But since that width is unity, you will get this dr. And so you can see that that is into the board, right? If you apply the right hand rule, that is into the board, but the actual moment here that we are applying is m, so that is the reason that there is a minus sign here. Fine. Then similarly here, the other boundary condition on this is that now r theta is also equal to 0 at r equal to A and r equal to B. So because these surfaces are completely traction free. So we have already looked at that axisymmetric solution, and actually we will try to apply that same solution in this particular case here. And so what you will get is that A by A square plus B times 1 plus 2 log A plus 2C is equal to 0. So this actually is the boundary condition that tau r at r equal to A is this particular expression here. Then similarly, you will get that A by B square plus B times 1 plus 2 log B plus 2C is equal to 0. Okay. So that is another this one. And we also have that tau theta theta over dr is equal to 0. So now this tau r theta equal to 0 at r equal to A and B is trivially satisfied, because we have assumed that the solution depends only on r. There is no dependence on theta. So the tau r theta condition is automatically satisfied here. Then let us look at whether this condition is also satisfied. So that so integral of tau theta theta dr, so integral of tau theta theta times dr from a to b. So this is equal to integral of del square phi by del r square times dr. Okay, and that is from a to b, and this is equal to d phi by d r from a to b plus which is equal to r times tau r from a to b, and this is also trivially satisfied. Okay, so this boundary condition is also trivially satisfied here. So, so this is automatically satisfied. If A and B are satisfied, then is fine where this is my A and this is my B. So this is the condition that tau r at r equal to A, and this is the condition that tau r at r equal to B is equal to 0. So if these two conditions are satisfied, then this condition will automatically get satisfied, right? And so this tau theta theta, integral of tau theta theta over r is equal to 0. That is automatically satisfied on this particular edge here. Fine. Then now the next condition is this moment condition here. So let us now try to see what we get out of this condition here. Yes, so integral of tau theta theta times r times dr is equal to minus n, and so you will get from a to b of del square v by del r square times r times dr is equal to minus n. And if you now simplify this particular expression, you will get del phi by del r times r from a to b minus phi from a to b is equal to minus n. And again, so same thing, that just like the tau r condition automatically satisfied one of these conditions. So here same thing. So tau r at r equal to a is equal to tau r at r equal to b is equal to 0. So this implies that del phi by del r equal to at r equal to a is equal to del phi by del r and r equal to b is equal to 0. So then so this term just drops out because of that, and then we get that phi from a to b is equal to n. So phi evaluated at a and b is equal to n. Okay, so that gives us the third equation, right? So the two equations originally were this a and b, whatever I had written. Now this is the third equation that we will get. So we will get now here. So we will get so from this so phi at a phi evaluated at a b is equal to m. Now this will imply that a log b by a log b by a plus b times b square log b minus a square log a plus c times b square minus a square is equal to n. So this is actually equation C. Okay, so now we have these three constants A, B, C. So we can solve for these three constants using these three equations A, B, and C. Okay, so what we will get, let me just write this here. So we will get now, so tau r is equal to minus 4m by n times a square b square by r square log of b by a plus b square times log of r by b plus a square log of a by r, and tau theta theta is equal to minus 4m by n or minus a square b square by r square log of b by a plus b square log of r by b plus a square log of a by r plus b square minus a square. So this is, and this n, so this n is the denominator. So this n is equal to b square minus a square square minus 4a square b square times 1 log of b by a square. Okay, so this is the solution that you get, and of course tau r theta is equal to 0. So tau r theta equal to 0. So that I already indicated in the beginning that is trivially satisfied here. So you can see that so we have to apply the distribution of this tau theta theta in this particular way at these ends for this solution to be an exact solution. Okay, only when you apply this tau theta theta, since this is the tau theta theta distribution that is being applied here, right? And so that has to be according to whatever comes out of this solution. That will generate that bending moment m, and only when you apply the tractions according to this distribution will this be an exact solution. Now in actual practice, in a practical situation, it is very unlikely that the traction distribution will be applied in this particular manner, right? And so then we have to invoke Savelan's principle that basically here, suppose if you generate this moment using some other distribution of tractions, then in the vicinity of the load, the stress distribution will be very different than this whatever stress distribution will be stated. But far away from these ends, so that means let's say in this region, which is far away from the loaded end, the distribution of the stress will be almost very very close to the distribution of the stresses that is listed here, right? So this is how we invoke this Savina principle for this particular case here. Okay. Yes. So let us see. Yes. So what do we do in the strength of material solution, right? So this is an exact solution based on the theory of elasticity, but in the strength of material, so in strength of material solution, strength of material solution, we neglect tau r, So that means we just set it to 0. But you can see that actually tau r is not 0. Right? So from this solution you can see that. As I said, that the strength of material solution is an approximation. Okay? And I mean, see, finally it may still turn out to be a reasonable approximation, but it is always better to use the exact solution, right? Because that satisfies all the equations of equilibrium, compatibility, and so on. Yes. Okay. Then what about the displacement field here? So to find the displacement field, we use the boundary conditions that boundary condition that u r equal to u theta equal to del u theta by del r equal to 0 and theta equal to 0 and r equal to r naught equal to a plus b divided by 2. Okay, so that's okay, so this theta actually we are measuring, I think, from this center edge. So maybe I should indicate that this theta is being measured here. So so this is the theta equal to 0 position here, and we are measuring the theta from here. So the at theta equal to 0 means along these fibers, we take ur equal to u theta equal to del u theta by del r equal to 0. So this is the these are the boundary conditions that are being used in order to suppress the rigid body modes. Okay, and then so what you get is that you get u theta is equal to 4b r theta by e minus k sine theta. So this is the solution that you get here. So there is a translation part and then there is a rotation part to this displacement here. And you will see that from these displacements, actually, if we compute now del u theta by del r, so that is equal to 4 times b theta by e. Okay. And from this, you can see that this del u theta by del r is a constant, right? At a constant theta, at a given theta. So suppose if you take this particular plane here, right? At a particular theta, you will see that this del u theta by del r is a constant, right? And so basically what that says is that your plane cross section is remaining plane, right? So there is no deflection. There is no displacement like this. So just it basically whatever is plane is remaining plane, right? Because this del u theta by del r is just a function of theta alone, and so if you take theta to be a constant, then this del u theta by del r is also a constant here. So this so let us just write that here. So all radial lines, right? So all radial lines in the cross section have the same angle of rotation. Thus, plane cross section remain plane after bending. So you can see that it's a fairly complicated problem, that it's a curved beam and then there's a bending moment. But using this Airy stress function approach, we are able to get the distribution of the stresses and the associated displacements and so on. Okay, we will go to the next problem here. Okay, so now we are going to discuss something very, very important. So now we are going to look at this particular problem here. So suppose there is a very large plate and then there is a hole here, and then now we are subjecting this plate to this unidirectional load here, like this. Load right here, and then let us draw this circle here. Radius B, and this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis, and let us call this S here. So now in this case so phi now depends on r and theta. So up to now all the problems that we discussed up to now, the dependence of phi was on r alone, correct? Phi was not dependent on theta. Now this is a more complicated example that we are going to consider, where the phi now depends on r and theta. So that means your phi will be equal to phi of r tau theta. Okay. So now so basically now there is a small circular hole here of radius a. So this is a. And we want to find out what is the stress concentration, right? So suppose if this hole were not there, then you would just have a uniform state of stress, right? But because you are now introducing the hole, the stress distribution is now different, right? It gets disturbed. The uniform state of stress gets disturbed. And now there is a new distribution of stress, and we want to see what are the stress concentrations that are introduced due to the introduction of this particular hole, right? So let us look at this particular problem here. Yes. Okay, so due to the introduction of a hole, the stress distribution in the neighborhood of the hole is changed. But we assume that the change is negligible at distances large compared to So that means, so suppose if you go to some point which is very far, okay, so you can first assume that this whole domain is infinite, okay, and then you are applying this stress in the really far field here. And so if you go far away from this hole, we assume that the distribution is given by this S. So let us say that this B, right, this circle that I have drawn here, this dotted, that's an imaginary circle. So this radius B, if that tends to infinity, then we are assuming that the stress state is this unidirectional stress state that you have, that I have shown here. Okay, so that is the assumption here. Fine. So let basically B much greater than A. Right? So that's what we will see. And so the stresses at R equal to B. So stresses at R equal to B is equal to the stress in the plate without load, right? In the plate without load, right? So that is what I am saying, that as you go far away from the hole, we are assuming that the state of stress is the same without the hole. Okay, so basically the boundary condition at this R equal to B is given by, so tau R at R equal to B is equal to S cos square theta. So here your R is this R and this is your theta. Okay, so at R equal to B, you will get S cos square theta, which is also equal to S by 2 times 1 plus cos 2 theta. Okay, so this S cos square theta we get by transforming the stresses, right? So this is the standard stuff, that is this tau RR, tau R theta, tau R theta, tau theta theta is equal to Q times tau XX, tau XY, tau XY, tau YY times Q transpose, right? This is the usual tensor transformation law. That is what we are using to get this tau RR, because here your tau XX will be S, this is 0 and this is also 0, right? So that I am just substituting all of this and then find out the transformation matrix Q, and then you will get this particular result. Okay, so this is just the usual tensor transformation law, and then you will also get that tau R theta and R equal to B is equal to minus S by 2 times sine 2 theta. So this is the other component. So that is this component that you will get. And we are not worried about tau theta because see, if you look at this R equal to B, the traction will just involve tau RR and tau R theta. It doesn't involve tau theta theta. So that is the reason that I am not calculating tau theta because I am going to apply the boundary condition at R equal to B. So where B is very large compared to A. Alright. So now let us resolve this into two components here. So that yes. A R equal to B is equal to S by 2 and tau B 0 and B is this R and R equal to B is equal to S by 2 cos 2 theta and R theta and R equal to B is equal to minus S by 2 times sine 2 So what I have done is that this we are splitting into two parts. So this is the S by 2. Sorry, this should be just S by 2. Sorry. So S by 2, that is this first part here, and then the S by 2 cos 2 theta, I am writing it here. And then similarly here, you can think of this as 0 minus S by 2 sine 2 theta. So this 0 I am just putting in this part, and this minus S by 2 sine 2 theta I am putting it. So see, I have already mentioned this that in linear elasticity, you can always superpose the solutions, right? And so what we are going to do is that we are going to consider these two cases as two separate loading cases, and then we are just going to superpose the solutions. So that is one very nice thing about linear elasticity, that because the governing equations are linear, you can superpose the two solutions, and because it is much easier to solve these two problems individually, correct? And so that you will see, and so this superposition will be much easier rather than trying to solve the combined problem together. So now, so this part A is identical to the hollow cylinder. Problem with P naught equal to minus S by 2 and Pi equal to 0. So this we did yesterday, right, on the previous class. So that means you have this R equal to A, and this is B, and now we are applying a pressure P naught on this. So this is P naught equal to minus this by 2, and then on this the Pi is 0. So Pi is equal to 0. That is, there is no internal pressure. So so this particular problem is exactly identical to what we did yesterday. Right? So that is the same thing, that P naught is equal to minus S by 2 and Pi. And so we can directly use that solution for a hollow cylinder that we derived in the last class. And then what we will get is that now R is equal to S by 2 times B square by B square minus A square times 1 minus A square by R square, and now theta theta is equal to S times B square by 2 times B square minus A square times 1 plus A square by R square. So this is it. And then tau R theta is 0. So tau R theta is equal to 0, because that is actually symmetric problem. So there the tau R theta is 0. And then we have to take the limit as b tends to infinity, correct? So because in this particular problem we are taking that this b is really large compared to a. So in the limit as b tends to infinity, so as b tends to infinity, you will get that tau r is equal to s by 2 times 1 minus a square by r square, and tau theta theta is equal to s by 2 times 1 plus a square by r square. Okay, so that is the thing that we get. Okay, now so we have solved this part A, right? This is the solution that you will get. Now we have to solve part B, correct? And then we will just simply add the two solutions, and then we will get the solution to the entire problem. Okay, so let us do that now. So for B prime, phi is equal to f of r times cos 2 theta. So see, this guesswork is a little bit of intelligent guesswork. So intelligent guesswork in the sense that it is guided by the stress distribution that we want, correct? So we have seen that in the case B, tau r at r equal to b is s by 2 times cos 2 theta, and we have seen that tau r theta at r equal to b is minus s by 2 sin 2 theta, right? So this is also cos 2 theta. So that is basically this will yield the stresses of the same form that we require in the far field. Okay, so that is the reason that we are guessing this particular solution here. And then if you substitute this, so substitute into del raised to 4 phi, substitute into del raised to 4 phi is equal to 0. So you will get that, you will get a differential equation for f of r. And then from that, what you will get is so you will get the general solution. So the general solution, see, because it is fourth order, you will get 4 terms, correct, with 4 constants in it. So you will get general solution phi is equal to a r square plus b r to the 4 plus c by r square plus b times cos 2 theta. So this is your f of r. So after you, so basically after you substitute this, you will get a differential equation for f of r, and then you solve the differential equation for f of r, then you will get this as the solution, and then it is f of r times cos 2 theta. So I am just writing it as f of r times cos 2 theta. So that is how now I obtain my phi. Now you can find out what are the stresses associated with this particular thing. So you will get that now r is equal to 1 by r times del phi by del r plus 1 by r square times del square phi by del theta square. And so that is equal to minus of 2a plus 6c by r to the 4 plus 4d by r square times cos 2 theta. And then similarly you will get tau theta theta. Tau theta theta is del square phi by del r square. So that is equal to 2a plus 12 dr square plus 6c divided by r to the 4 times cos 2 theta, and tau r theta is equal to minus del by del r of 1 by r del phi by del theta, that is equal to 2a plus 6b r square minus 6c divided by r to the 4 minus 2d by r square times sin 2 theta. Okay, so this is the stress distribution that you get for this problem B now. Okay, and then now we apply the boundary conditions. So let us do that. So at r equal to b, we want this tau r to be s by 2 times cos 2 theta. Correct? So let us look at now what we get. So at tau r should be equal to s by 2 times cos 2 theta as r tends to infinity. Correct? So because we are taking this b very large, correct? So as r tends to infinity, we want it to be this one, and then tau r theta should be equal to minus s by 2 times sin 2 theta as r tends to infinity. Correct? As r tends to infinity. And we also have the boundary condition that tau r is equal to tau r theta is equal to 0 at r equal to a. Right? And then so from this what you will get is that now you can find out all these constants. So you will get that a is equal to minus s by 4, b is equal to 0, c is equal to minus s a raised to 4 divided by 4, and d is equal to s a square divided by 2. So using these boundary conditions, you will get these 4 constants here. Okay, so now I can superpose, right? So I have got the solution for part A, I have got the solution for part B. Now I can superpose these two solutions and then see what the total solution looks like. Okay, so let's look at that now. Yes, so what I get now is that tau r, so now this is a total stress distribution. This is, so add now solutions A and B now. So what I get is s by 2 times 1 minus a square by r square plus s by 2 times 1 plus 3 a raised to 4 by r to the 4 minus 4 a square by r square times cos 2 theta, and tau theta theta is equal to s by 2 times 1 plus a square by r square minus s by 2 times 1 plus 3 a raised to 4 by r to the 4 times cos of 2 theta, and tau r r theta is equal to minus s by 2 times 1 minus 3 a to the 4 by r to the 4 plus 2a square by r square times sine theta. So now this is the complete stress distribution. So you can see that this is the solution corresponding to the part A of the solution, and this is the solution corresponding to the part B of the solution, and similarly here also. So this is corresponding to part A of the solution, this is corresponding to part B of the solution, this is corresponding to part B of the solution, because in the part A tau r theta was just equal to 0. Okay, and so now this is the total solution that we get here. Okay, so now let us try to analyze what are the stress concentrations and what are the other results corresponding to this particular solution here. So you can see that there is no dependence of the stress on E and nu. Okay, so that is very typical when we have a pure traction boundary value problem, right? So then in that case, the E and the nu don't come into the picture. So the E and the nu will come in the displacement solution, but not in the stress solution, because all the constants in the Airy stress function are decided just by the boundary conditions, the traction boundary conditions that we are applying. So if we had displacement type boundary conditions, then the E and the nu would enter, but in this case, you can see that all the boundary conditions are pure traction type boundary conditions, and so you will see that there is no dependence on E and nu in this particular solution. So let us write a few observations here. So one is that observations now. Observations. So your tau r, tau theta theta, tau r theta theta are independent of E and nu. Are independent of E and nu. Correct. So the material could be anything, right? It could be steel, aluminum, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? For this particular problem, your stresses will be the same. So of course, the displacements will be different, right? Because there the E and the nu will enter into the solution, but as far as the stresses are concerned, you will not get this one. Okay? Then second observation is that tau r plus tau theta theta. So this is your trace of tau. That is equal to S times 1 minus 2a square by r square times cos of 2 theta here. And so from this, we can see that your del square of tau r plus tau theta theta is equal to 0. So if you recall, this was the governing equation, right? We had del square of tau xx plus tau yy is equal to 0, correct? But this is nothing but trace of tau, correct? This is nothing but trace of tau, and trace of tau is an invariant, correct? No matter which coordinate system you consider. So in this particular case, your trace of tau is tau r plus tau theta theta. So you can replace tau xx plus tau yy by tau r plus tau theta theta because it's an invariant, right? And so you will get this del square of tau r plus tau theta theta is equal to 0, and so you can verify that this whatever solution you have got satisfies this particular equation here. Then what about the far field conditions that you will get? So let us see those things also. Okay, so you will get now that as r tends to infinity, so C 3 is that as for r tending to infinity, you will get tau r is equal to S by 2 times 1 plus cos 2 theta. So this is just a verification, right? We had already imposed this particular condition. So we are just verifying that our solution indeed gives us this particular condition here. And tau theta theta is equal to S by 2 times 1 minus cos 2 theta, and tau r theta is equal to minus s by 2 times sine 2 theta. So these are the conditions in the far field. So as I said that we had already imposed, of course we had not imposed this one, but we had imposed the tau r condition and the tau r theta condition at r equal to b, and we had taken b as very large, and so as I said, this is just a verification of the conditions that we had imposed. Okay, but now we come to the important part of this whole solution, that what happens at r equal to a, correct? So this is the whole now, and so we are interested in the stress distribution around this whole thing. So let us look at that now. So for r equal to a, so for r equal to a, you will get tau r equal to tau r theta equal to 0. So that is just the boundary condition, right? Yeah, because the surface of this hole is traction free, so Tr and T theta are 0, and Tr is equal to tau r and T theta is equal to tau r theta, and so that those things are equal to 0. So again, this is just a boundary condition that we have applied, but the important thing here is the tau theta theta, right? So then what we get now is that tau theta theta is equal to s times 1 minus 2 cos of 2 theta. Okay, so this is the important result now that has come out of this whole analysis here. So the maximum tau theta theta occurs at theta equal to pi by 2 and 3 pi by 2. So let us write these things here now. So tau theta theta max. So when I say max, I mean in terms of the magnitude, not just the sign here. So that occurs at, so this is equal to 3s. So occurs at theta equal to pi by 2 and 3 pi by 2. So let me just draw this figure here. So suppose if I draw this circle r equal to a, then I'll just show you the stress distribution around that. So so this is your circle r equal to a, and so you can see that it is a tensile stress. Okay, so this the magnitude that you get is a tensile stress. So that is at theta equal to pi by 2, right? This is so theta is measured from this axis here. So theta equal to 0 is this line, and then this is theta equal to pi by 2, and theta equal to 3 pi by 2 is this. So it also occurs at this particular point here. So this is also 3s. So this is 3s. So the at theta equal to 0, correct? This will be minus 1, right? This whole term. So you will get minus s in that particular case. So this is minus s, and same thing at theta equal to pi also. So you will get a minus s here also. So this is minus s. So here, so basically here you will see that you get a compressive stress which is the same as what is applied here. But see, in the far field actually it is a tensile stress, but here you will get a compressive stress which is of the same magnitude as the applied stress, and then at theta equal to pi by 2 and 3 pi by 2 you will get a stress concentration of 3, correct? So that you can see that so this is very, very important, that basically the moment you introduce a geometrical discontinuity into a structure, that can lead to stress concentrations, and so this is generally true for other types of geometrical discontinuities that you introduce in this structure here, right? So so for example, suppose now you had an elliptical hole in this same plate here. Okay, so suppose now you imagine that there is the same problem, right? Now you imagine that it's a large plate, and then now you have an elliptical hole, suppose, okay, something like this, and then there are applying some load here. Okay, then now the stress concentrations, or let me take the hole in the other direction actually. So let me take the hole in this direction actually, the major axis in this particular hole. So you can see that actually you will get very severe stress concentrations around this at these 2 points here. Okay, so as you load this particular plate in this direction, you will get this, and if you try to shrink this minor axis to 0, in fact that will become like a crack. correct? And then here you will get singularities in the stress field, okay, when you are loading it in this. So that is something you will learn in some advanced courses such as fracture mechanics and so on. But basically you will get a 1 by root r type singularity in the stress field at these points, at the end points of the crack. Okay? So basically the idea here is that the moment you introduce any geometrical discontinuity like holes and things like that, it can introduce very severe stress concentrations. Okay, so here, for example, in the ellipse, it depends on the ratio of the major axis to the minor axis. But so you can imagine that if the ratio is of the order of 10, then your stress concentration can be one order magnitude larger than the load that you are applying. And so one has to be very careful about this because obviously the failure can occur at those particular points. The last point in this whole solution is that see we have derived this solution under the assumption that these loads are applied at very large distances, but this solution would be a very good approximation even if you have a very large plate. So you can imagine that suppose I have a very large plate and I have a small hole inside, and then this whatever solution that we have derived that does not contain that b. That b is the radius of that order because we took the limit as b tends to infinity, if you recall. But suppose even if it was a very large plate and a small hole, then whatever solution that we have derived will be a very good approximation to this finite plate solution also. Because typically you will see that as you go far away, these stresses decay very rapidly. Right? We have terms like 1 by r square, 1 by r to the 4 and so on. And so the same solution would be valid even for a very large plate.